Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while. I've been trying to figure out kind of what I want my next video to be, and I thought it was a perfect time to go back into Taylor Swift's discography, her album cycles, and talk about each album in preparation for the life of a showgirl. I'm so excited it's dropping in about 2 weeks, and I thought it would be the perfect time to get my album rankings down so that when the album comes out, we can kind of go back, reassess how it fits in with the catalog so far. So if you guys are interested, definitely keep watching, but we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. So what I have here is a tier list with all of Taylor's different albums, and I feel like we can kind of go through each album in two ways. The first way is my personal opinions on the album. Do I like it? Do I dislike it? What are my favorite songs? What is like my perception of the theme of the album? And then also, obviously, critical reception, right? So, do people even like this album? Was this album relevant in the Taylor Swift greater canon? So, using both of those, we will put an album into one of these tiers. So, God is a Woman, this is like the God tier albums. Diva Parade, we've got a lot of diva good songs, but maybe not like completely cohesive or something like that. Tasteful listen, time and place equivalent. Skip Central, we've got a lot of skips, maybe a couple bangers, but mostly skips for me. And then Cancelled, referencing the new album track Cancelled. This is an album that we're just not listening to. And then also for the Taylor's versions, I'm really going to be ranking them based off the vault tracks, right? So we're not going to be kind of screwing around too much with the re-records because honestly, like, I don't know if I just have less of an ear for production, but I just don't hear that big of a difference. So I am just going to go into the vault tracks for those. Starting off with Debut. So, of course, I love Debut. Unfortunately, though, I do think it is definitely one of her weakest albums because she didn't have enough resources, she didn't have enough experience to kind of come out with something equivalent to one of her God tier albums. I think it was a really great debut record. I was also pretty young when I first heard it, so it doesn't have a particular nostalgia factor for me because at the time I wasn't really like a Swiftie. I wasn't old enough to really appreciate music. So like my earliest like nostalgia album, if I'm being completely honest, is probably like Speak Now. So that being said, love Debut. I think a lot of people just regard Debut as a good debut album, but it's not like standing out. So, I honestly I'm going to be a little hard on it. I'm going to put her in Skip Central because genuinely I don't think there are a ton of songs I listen to on here. I think there are definitely a couple outstanding ones. Our song Teardrops on My Guitar, Should Have Said No, love all of these. But there are a lot of songs on this album that I just do not listen to. I don't want to say canceled because I also think with the amount of skips it makes sense for a debut album versus their albums on here who have this amount of skips for no good reason, and that would be canceled. So let's keep going. Let's hit Fearless. I love Fearless. I think it's such a cohesive album. I think the title track is so beautiful. I think this is where we get a lot of the classic Taylor albums, like when you think about nostalgia factor. um Something like Love Story, I think that's such a timeless song. Again, the title track, I think the Eras Tour set for Fearless really spoke to the timelessness of this album. I will say this is another one that I'm not spinning as often as a lot of the other ones, and that could be recency bias. I don't know. As I said before, I think the first album I really started resonating with was Speak Now. So I'm gonna put Fearless and Tasteful Listen. I think she's great. Taylor won her first album of the year there, so I definitely think she deserves her flowers, but all in all, it's definitely not one that I'm coming back to in comparison to the other ones. Now, Speak Now is going right into God is a Woman. I think this is Taylor's first album for me where I really listened to it and I can remember the young girl I was when I first heard this album. I resonated with it at 5 years old, the same way I resonate with it still now. The fact that I was able to listen to it that young and love it, and I still will come back to it and listen to it front to back is insane to me. I think there's a song on Speak Now for everyone. You have Better Than Revenge, which is kind of that rep coded Speak Now song. You have Mean, if you're thinking about friendship breakups. You have so many beautiful love songs, Sparks Fly, love that song. Enchanted, are you kidding me? My fairy tale princess, Taylor Swift, is Enchanted. I mean, that's, I think, the song that really stands out on this album. And I don't know if the critical reception for Speak Now was as good as Fearless. Again, Fearless won Album of the Year and Speak Now did not. But honestly, I think most of Swifties looking back definitely can regard Speak Now as one of her best albums. I think there was so much time spent on it. And overall, I do think it's really cohesive as well. Like every song on Speak Now feels like a Speak Now centric song. It very much feels like young love, young experiences, kind of that early 20s, like figuring everything out kind of thing, being an adult for the first time and those experiences that come with it. But there's definitely something for everyone on this album. So overall, I think I gotta put that in God is Woman. Now, Red. Like, see, here's the issue here is that I want to put all of them into God is a Woman. I'm gonna put Red up there, and I will explain myself. I think Red has the same allure as Speak Now. I think there's a song on Red for everyone, and especially as her kind of amalgamation of pop and country album. You know, she kind of crossed over, and once she hit 1989, she was kind of full blown pop. So I think this is an album that kind of had that crossover in it, but I also think really showed off her strengths as a pop writer. I mean, songs like 22, come on. Like if you're turning 22, you're listening to 22, speaking to the timelessness of the song, right? I do think there are some songs that have aged out. I think We Are Never really screams, 2012 to me. I still think it's fun, but it does feel a bit outdated. But also like title track is absolutely amazing. I think the lyricism on that really shows off Taylor as a lyrical writer, which I think we get into later in her discography, but this is definitely the first album where I think we really see her flexing those muscles a little bit more than we have seen in the past. I mean, obviously songs like Dear John for sure, but this album as a cohesive album, I mean, I would argue is her first kind of like breakup album where she's really, really digging in, right? We do have songs like Dear John on Speak Now, but on Red, I think we get more of those songs like We Are Never, we have Red, we have All Too Well, of course, and of course the 10-minute version is on the Taylor's version, so we can't really factor that in. But even the original All Too Well is absolutely amazing. Um, State of Grace, Holy Ground. I mean, I could go on and on. These songs are absolutely amazing. And again, yeah, I do think it's our first relationship centric album, which obviously is Taylor Swift in her bag. So we have to give this God is a Woman. I think reflecting back on her albums, this album definitely stands out as like a pivotal Taylor album. Now, I think this next one's going to surprise people. I'm going to put 1989 Diva Parade. I think 1989 is widely regarded as Taylor's best album. Like if we're talking about objectively. That being said, I absolutely love this album. I don't like I think it is the pop Bible, but what I've heard a lot of people talk about is the fact that Taylor Swift on this album is very distanced from the listener because there is such a focus on creating this bulletproof pop album. So I do think this album lacks a little bit of the transparency of something like Red. I think Red, she was very raw and vulnerable, and I think on 1989 it was more focused on the craft and the music, which makes it absolutely amazing. But for me personally, I prefer albums where we get a little more of that raw emotion from Taylor. But obviously, like you cannot overlook the merit 1989 has as a pop album. I do think it's one of the best pop albums out there, point blank period. And the fact that you have this insane run of songs like Style, Out of the Woods, Blank Space, I Wish You Would, all of these songs that I really truly think are timeless pop hits, point blank period. This album really cemented Taylor as a pop force, perhaps the princess of it. So I think 1989 is definitely an amazing album. Does it hold much emotional baggage for me? Does it have a special place in my heart because I connected with it so much? I don't think so. I think I genuinely just think it's an amazing collection of songs. I don't resonate with it in the same way that I resonate with other albums, which is why I'm not putting it on our top tier, but I cannot put it any lower than Diva Parade because of the absolute bulletproof pop album that it is. Reputation, she's right there. Um, Reputation is hard, right? Because it wasn't received that well, but it is 100% one of my favorite Taylor albums. So I think it's fair to put her in Diva Parade. I think we have a lot of really great songs on Reputation, some of my personal favorites. I think we have a lot of songs where Taylor's trying new things, which is so cool. I mean, Look What You Made Me Do off the gate was like one of my favorite songs. I love that song. It's such like a going out, like baddie ballad, if you will. I don't know if that was really cringy or not. Um, but it's something we never saw Taylor doing, and especially I think for this album specifically, the visual direction was so good. And I think Taylor has a lot of albums where she really struggles with that, especially in the recent album cycles, which I'll get into. But the visual direction with this I think was extremely cohesive. I think again the Look What You Made Me Do video really set a really great picture of what this album was going to look like and what Taylor was kind of exploring on this album. And I love how this album was perceived as an album kind of about taking back her reputation, but you dive into it, love album if you actually like listen to it and kind of dissect the lyrics. It's about her falling in love with Joe Alwyn and kind of keeping that hidden away because everything was going up in flames. And I love the whole entire theming of like everything can be going wrong, but if you're with the right person, it works. And I don't care about everything that's going wrong because when I'm with you, it all fades away. And I think that theme is so clear through all of the songs. Again, extremely cohesive, really good visual direction, flowers, diva, club, club, another club, bus, whatever the. Anyway, this is definitely, in my opinion, one of my favorite Taylor albums, hands down. But I do have to knock her down a little bit because the critical reception was so negative. I think in retrospect, a lot of people love Reputation and forget how horribly critics took it. But so I'm gonna put her in Diva Parade. I'm gonna put her in one of my favorite Taylor works, but not widely perceived as one of her best works. I feel like I'm like looking at my list right now, and I feel like people are about to say hate on it. I'm gonna put Lover and Skip Central. All right. If you guys are like at all in the Swiftie culture, this is probably not a surprise to you. Does Lover have Cruel Summer? Absolutely. Absolutely. Does Lover have Me? Yeah. Yeah, it does. I think this album post Eras Tour is seen as like a summary, love song, obviously Lover, but like a summer Eras Tour album. Before that, when it was being released, it genuinely felt like a Claire's commercial. It felt like a Justice commercial. And for me, I didn't love the pivot from Reputation 1989, which felt more like a young 20 somethings album, to an album that did feel kind of directly targeted at younger people. Now, do younger people love it? I don't know. But for me, it just didn't resonate as well. I think there are definitely a couple love songs in there that are super good. I do love the title track. I think it's beautiful. I loved it on the Eras tour, of course. I think she really was able to almost re-release this album, if you will. Like Lover Taylor's version is now the Eras tour, right? It was the stand up, it was like the album of the Eras tour, if you will, because it was the opening album and it was kind of the color scheme and stuff like that. So I do think it's been repackaged and that's allowed it to age more gracefully, but I think people do forget how it looked when it first came out and the Me music video and when Me was all we have. And then, it just very much felt like children's pop, which I didn't really resonate with. It didn't feel deep. I didn't feel a connection to it. There are definitely some songs on Lover that I absolutely love. Again, Cruel Summer, potentially one of Taylor Swift's best songs if we're talking about just like pop songs and critical reception. It's like Cruel Summer, Blank Space, whatever. On this album is insane to me. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about folklore. Let's talk about folklore. Folklore is an album I've wrestled with a lot. I'm gonna be so vulnerable here. When it first came out, I really hated it. I also just really wasn't the kind of person who looked into like the lyrics of this album when it first came out. I think I just heard the slower songs and I disliked it. And it's really crazy to me saying that now because now it's definitely an album that I really think deserves its merit. It's widely regarded as one of her best albums, too. I think Folklore and 1989 are like, if you asked a critic to name Taylor's top three albums, they would say those two and something else. So I think I'm gonna put her in Diva Parade. I don't want to give everyone that God tier. And the thing with folklore is I've had such a journey with it. And I do really like some of the songs now, but it honestly just doesn't stand out to me as like one of my favorite Taylor albums. Now, if we're talking about Evermore, I So Evermore's the opposite. I really love Evermore. I think it's like Folklore's darker sister, if you will. I think some of the songs just resonated with me more, and I think there are some of my absolute favorite Taylor Swift songs on this album. I'm sorry, Right Where You Left Me is so good. The title track of this album is so good. I love Bon Iver. He's just like his voice juxtaposing with Taylor's like, beautiful, a bit soprano, and I just love their duets on here. Um and I do really love Folklore. The thing with Evermore is it was just critically received worse. And so I'm kind of tempted to put it also in Diva Parade because I think I do like it a little bit more than Folklore, but that's kind of balanced out with like it wasn't received as well as Folklore was. I think Folklore is that lighter, like early fall, like we do get August, whatever. We do get that theming of it, but I do think Evermore is a little darker, a little more of the, geez, I do think Evermore is a little more of that, like winter side of that. I think most of the songs in Evermore are a bit more final, a bit darker. Whereas I think Folklore, especially when we have songs that are kind of like we're talking about the love triangle, for example, that is very like young love. I do think that's a bit more bright and happier, if you want to like put it bluntly like that. And then I think in Evermore we definitely get into darker subjects. So yeah, I think these two albums are pretty comparable. I think it's fitting they're on the same tier because obviously they're sister albums. Duh. And then we get into Midnights. All right, I think my next two rankings are going to be extremely controversial. I'm going to put Midnights and Tasteful Listen. Um, which makes me feel like Fearless needs to move up because I like Fearless so much more than Midnights, but whatever. So Midnights, I really struggled with Midnights because there are a lot of good songs on it, but overall it wasn't really gripping me the way a lot of her other albums have. I don't know if it's the production or the lyricism. Like, for some reason, it gave me the worst parts of like Folklore in 1989. Like, if you meshed together those two albums but took the worst parts of them, if you will, and gave me Midnights, like, I do think there's some good songs on it. I mean, You're on Your Own Kid, once again, absolute outstanding album. I have the same issues with Midnights that I have with Lover, where we have some of these best Taylor Swift songs ever, and they're covered up with songs that I'm not that big of a fan of. Like Vigilante shit, like I loved it on the Eras tour, but that song doesn't go anywhere. So I don't know. It's just a lot of that, anti-hero, extremely overplayed, blah blah blah, I'm not even saying anti-hero is that bad. I think the visual direction of this album, again, I love the music videos on this. I don't think they made a ton of sense. Like they weren't cohesive, if you will. Like every music video was a bit different, which is fine, but I think they were far enough apart where the visual direction of this album felt a little bit weird. I think I mostly saw it as the anti-hero music video, which felt fitting. I feel like with all the glitter and, the nighttime stuff, midnight, whatever. Um, but we do again get some really great songs on this album. Even the opening track, Lavender Haze, I really liked that song, but do I listen to any songs from Midnights regularly besides You're on Your Own Kid? No. I think even honestly, the thing that's lifting Midnights up a lot is the 3 a.m. like version because of Woulda Coulda Shoulda, which I think is like lyrically so amazing. So I struggle with Midnights. I like the thing is I'm looking at this and I'm thinking of the albums that I like will play at least once a week. Like when I'm walking to class, am I thinking about playing certain albums? And the answer for Midnights is no. Like I'll maybe play it like once every other month. Speak Now, Red, 1989, Rep, like a lot of these other albums, I'm definitely diving into those like once a week, once every other week, etc., etc. Tortured Poets, whatever, screw you guys. I loved this album. I think the lyricism on this album trumps everything else. And the issue I have with this album is the proportion of good songs is similar to the other albums, but since it's so much longer, there are so many more good songs. So like for me and this is kind of going against my rule with tier list ranking because like critically everyone hated this album, but I'm saying no, I'm saying best album ever created. I'm sorry, did we listen to the same thing like LOML, are you kidding me, Fresh Out the Slammer, Guilty as Sin, The Black Dog, I could keep going, I could keep going. This album is so good, I'm still listening to it almost every day these days. Like I'm sorry. It's like we get pop moments on it. Like My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Tours. Are you kidding me? That's classic Jackass, and it's not fair. We get some of the best lyricism I've ever heard from Taylor in songs like LOML. We get absolutely unhinged love songs and stuff like Fresh Out the Slammer and Guilty as Sin. I don't know if you would constitute those as love songs or, they're very nuanced, but you could definitely see them that way. You get your freaking Travis Flowers with So High School, which is honestly my least favorite song on this album, but I digress. The fact that the engagement post was to that and not to Love Story, I was like, anyway. All right, so I feel pretty comfortable with this list. I feel pretty comfortable with this list. The only one that's kind of rubbing me the wrong way is Fearless. I feel like she could be higher, but I don't, you know, let's do this. I'm gonna move. No. I'm gonna move Folklore up to God is a Woman if I had to pick one. Okay, we're gonna shift it around like this. This feels a little bit better. I think Fearless is a low Diva Parade, and I think Folklore is a low God is a Woman. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm happy with this. Now let's get into the Taylor's versions. Um, this is probably the only okay. I'm about to get like clowned for this. I'm sorry. I don't like the tracks on this one. If you asked me to name one of the tracks, like I would barely be able to. Like Mr. Perfectly Fine, sure. And it was fine. Mr. Perfectly Fine was fine. It's fitting. I'm sorry. Like you can't fix perfection. Fearless was fine without all of those. Now, let's talk about, I'm just gonna go through these real quickly because there aren't that many of them. Speak Now, I mean, I'm sorry, I barely remember most of these. I'm just ranking them randomly. Yeah, this is fair. The only one I listen to is I Can See You. Sue me, whatever. Red, Diva Parade. I'm sorry, All Too Well 10. Are you kidding me? Nothing New. Are you kidding me? I liked I Bet You Think About Me. 1989. Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, the wall tracks on 1989 were so freaking good. Is it over now? Are you kidding me? I think the only ones I don't listen to are Slut, and there might be like one more that I don't actively listen to that much, but most of them are like these songs are so 1989 coded. They feel like in tune with the album, like they literally just feel like a deluxe version. So I truly enjoy these. Where is the Legend of Showgirl gonna fall? Now I'm gonna do a comprehensive video of like what I think the tracks are gonna sound like and stuff like that within the next week. So stay tuned for that. But I haven't given too much thought as to like these specific tracks yet because I've been saving that for that video. Overall, what we know about this album is it's produced by Max Martin and Shellback, so we're kind of getting a callback to albums like 1989 and when she worked with Max Martin in her earlier years. This is the first album we're not getting Jack Antonoff since then, so that's going to be really interesting. We have a very tight track list, and she has made it clear that there's no deluxe version or anything like that, so we know that this is going to be basically the opposite of Torture Poets, which I'm not opposed to. I love Torture Poets, but I know it has its issues. It just simultaneously is so close to my heart, and I really love the songs regardless. Like the production and the lyricism are just top tier for me. I think we're getting some sort of an amalgamation between 1989 and Reputation, which is what everyone's been saying. Reputation being one of my favorite albums of Taylor Swift's makes me really excited. Obviously, 1989 Bulletproof Pop, which is what she's very much trying to get through, which is what she's very much trying to convey to us about this album. I think this album is going. Here's my fear for this album. Let me say this part first. I'm scared that this album is going to be like Midnights. So optimistically, I'm hoping it's the opposite of Midnights, right? I said Midnights was the worst part of 1989 and Folklore. I'm hoping this is the best parts of Reputation in 1989. And for those reasons, I think if it's the best parts, we're going to have to go in Diva Parade. Right? We're trimming the fat off of these two absolutely amazing albums. I think the only thing I'm concerned about is that we're going to get the issues I had with 1989 where we're a little more pulled back and we're not getting as much lyricism as we did on Torture Poets. But honestly, we probably need a break from it. We have 31 tracks of Taylor literally vomiting up everything related to that situation. So I think this is definitely going to go in Diva Parade. I'm curious to see if I think it's going to be better than Rep in 1989. I will say by the album cover, it's not. I I like this album cover. It's serving, but I don't love the title and like the mirror breaking animation. I don't love it. I feel like it's a very scattered, like it's giving me scattered. It doesn't give me like a cohesive like image of the or like visual direction of the album. So which makes me, I guess, a little bit worried about the cohesion of the album itself. So I think we're gonna go low Diva Parade. I think she's gonna be better than Midnight's, but do I think she's gonna beat out 1989 Rep right now? I don't, just because I love those albums and it's hard for me to kind of conceptualize how a song called Wood would be better than those, but also like maybe Wood's best song ever created? Maybe. we I simply have no idea. So I'm gonna put this here. I feel like this is a pretty safe spot, but let me know what you guys think of my track list. Reminder, this is all in good fun. This could easily change day to day, but this is just kind of how I was feeling today. If you guys have any ideas about the life of a showgirl, definitely comment them below. Give this video a like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, bye.